Oh man, I don't know if I should be sad about this or not because I've always never trusted these institutions. Like I wanted to be a writer when I was younger, right? When I was 20, 19, 20, and so on. And I looked at the college offerings and I looked at my brain and the way that my brain operates. And then I looked at what the colleges had going for them. And I just decided to go to used bookstores and write, just consume and write and consume and write. And eventually I did go to college, but I had a very negative view of college, especially when it comes to creating and sustaining a cultural heritage. Just something about having gatekeepers kind of irks me. And that feeling is kind of coming true now that there's this poison within the colleges, specifically the humanities, called critical race theory and critical theory and so on and so forth, as I have been covering. Well, it's finally taking over the entire institution, just everywhere across America. Everybody's using this moment right now to implement basically a broad-scale implementation of a doctrine throughout every institution of the humanities, or that proffers the humanities. Some colleges are able to stave that off, but the moral force of the Black Lives Matter, etc. movement is such that all these administrators are right on board with it, and not just the administrators, but the people in the departments too. So the University of Chicago has released this statement, this faculty statement from the Department of English. I'm going to read their overview for the Department of English to see how highly they think of themselves. Quote, since its founding, the English department at the University of Chicago has committed to questioning and reformulating the basic principles of literary study. Once famous for the Aristotelian Chicago School of Criticism in the 1950s, today the department, ranked first among English departments in the U.S., stands out for its interdisciplinary approach to literature and its commitment to close reading, combined with historical and conceptual analysis. And then blah, 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 blah. They give up all their different things that they do there. But there's this faculty statement. It's dated July 20, and I don't know if it was actually published on July 20, but I just found it today. This is the statement. The English department at the University of Chicago believes that, and this is in italics for some reason, Black Lives Matter, and that the lives of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tony McDade, and Rayshard Brooks matter, as do thousands of others named and unnamed who have been subject to police violence. As literary scholars, we attend to the histories, atmospheres, and scenes of anti-Black racism and racial violence in the United States and across the world. We are committed to the struggle of Black and Indigenous people and all racialized and dispossessed people against inequality and brutality. Dispossessed people, right? So who are they going to be dispossessing now? For the 2020-2021 graduate admissions cycle, the University of Chicago English Department is accepting only applicants interested in working in and with Black studies. We understand Black studies to be a capacious intellectual project that spans a variety of methodological approaches, fields, geographical areas, languages, and time periods. For more information on faculty and current graduate students in this area, please visit our Black Studies page. So basically, the coup de race continues apace. When have we ever seen such a large-scale implementation of a racialized ideology across the board, all at once, all within the span of a couple months? Is absolutely astounding. It's rather amazing and impressive, but actually scary when you get into the nitty-gritty of it. They want everything to be about this one lens and this one race, right? They're propping up a race, but they're actually propping up a narrative, and they're propping up a certain way of telling the narrative and approaching this knowledge and recreating this knowledge, reifying this belief system. To continue, the department is invested in the study of African American, African, and African diaspora literature and media, as well as in the histories of political struggle, collective action, and protest that Black, Indigenous, and other racialized people have pursued, both here in the United States and in solidarity with international movements. Together with students, we attend both to literature's capacity to normalize violence and derive pleasure from its aesthetic expression, and ways to use the representation of that violence to reorganize how we address making and breaking life. Our commitment is not just to ideas in the abstract, right? This is no longer about actually studying things. It's about engagement, but also to activating histories of engaged art, debate, struggle, collective action, and counter-revolution as contexts for the emergence of ideas and narratives. This is a cultural revolution. This is a cultural revolution, and it's coming through our institutions of education and then through the body politic from there. I don't know how this is going to end. In previous cultural revolutions, the liberals get the bullet too. The scholars are the ones who are taken out back and, disposed with by various means. So it's interesting that here it is that the intellectuals are the ones who are pushing this through. Why can't this be a part of the American story? Why does this have to be the central focus? Why does everything now have to be about this thing right now? And what kind of effect will this actually have? And how long will this be the obsession of these institutions? And why would you go to these institutions? Why would these institutions any longer maintain a liberal arts premise if what they are doing is indoctrination and promoting collective struggle, collective action, engaged art, counter-revolution, etc.? To continue, English as a discipline has a long history of providing aesthetic rationalizations for colonization, exploitation, extraction, and anti-Blackness. You can also see the history of literature as the history of people becoming more and more humanized. The way in which you learn empathy for another person is one of the best ways is through literature, is through storytelling. All of the old-timey views of the human race are now just becoming a site of denigrating the entire project of the humanities. The whole thing is being pushed aside for this non-liberal, illiberal push for revolution. Our discipline is responsible for developing hierarchies of cultural production. They say that as though it's a bad thing, but that is what they're doing right here, is creating a hierarchy of cultural production by saying we are only going to be focusing on this first and foremost. This is supremacy. This is a racialized supremacy movement. And then they dress it up with saying, this stuff has always been used for hierarchies, but it's time for this better hierarchy to occur. Our discipline is responsible for developing hierarchies of cultural production that have contributed directly to social and systemic determinations of whose lives matter and why. And while inroads have been made in terms of acknowledging the centrality of both individual literary works and collective histories of racialized and colonized people, there is still much to do as a discipline and as a department to build a more inclusive, by excluding everything else, and equitable, by excluding everything else, field for describing, studying, and teaching the relationship between aesthetics, representation, inequality, and power. So the way to actually fight against this stuff is to create better art. It really is. It's to create better humanities, right? That are truly liberal, that peek beyond the veil of color. Do not disregard it, right? You don't have to be blind to it, but look beyond it. That's what we have to do. We have to create better art, stuff that won't necessarily get through our institutions anymore because the publishing industry is caught up in this stuff too. To continue, in light of this historical reality, really, I guess if you look at it that way, it's a reality. We believe that undoing persistent, recalcitrant anti-Blackness in our discipline and in our institution must be the collective responsibility of all faculty here and elsewhere. Everybody has to be on board with this singular way of viewing and prioritizing knowledge and cultural production. In support of this aim, we have been expanding our range of research and teaching through recent hiring, mentorship, and admissions initiatives that have enriched our department with a number of Black scholars and scholars of color who are Black scholars and scholars of color. This is very definitely a Black supremacist movement. They are on top of this. Black scholars and scholars of color who are innovating in the study of the global contours of anti-Blackness and in the equally global project of Black freedom. Okay, see, this is about domination. And furthermore, if you actually look how people who are Black, who don't agree with this stuff, are treated by this stuff, it's not actually about Blackness. It's about a particular way of viewing the world. It wants everybody involved with its singular mission. As such, we believe all scholars have a responsibility to know the literatures of African America, African diasporic, and colonized peoples, regardless of area of specialization, as a core competence of the profession. I mean, maybe they are going to restructure liberal arts in their image and it'll be a better image. Maybe it will be an inclusive image after these temporary dominant measures of hierarchizing things around race are over and done with. But what is going to be the blowback? To continue, we acknowledge the university's and our field's complicated history with the South Side of Chicago. While we draw intellectual inspiration from the work of writers deeply connected to Chicago's South Side, including Ida B. Wells, Gwendolyn Brooks, Lorraine Hansberry, and Richard Wright, we are also attuned to the way that the university has been a vehicle of intellectual and economic opportunity for some in the community, and as a site of exclusion and violence for others. Part of our commitment to the struggle for Black lives entails vigorous participation in university-wide conversations and activism about the university's past and present role in the historically Black neighborhood that houses it. I'm sure that there is work to do. This is the moment for that work to happen. But this stuff is totally overstepping its bounds. It totally wants to capture all of the institutions and have everybody involved and on the same page with its modus operandi, which they call freedom and liberation. What was that other thing? Destroying anti-Blackness. I think, and this is my fault. This is my sin. This is my stain. I think that we can go past race, move past and beyond it. What these people want to do is enshrine it in the middle of the institution and have that be the goal of everything. And everybody has to be trained in this and active in this. And where will that lead? Will that actually lead to more works of art, works of high quality scholarship? Will it lead to less racism in the world? Or will it spark and restart that entire engine of discrimination and bigotry by putting that bigoted foot first? So, I mean, I'm saddened that this is the way that they're going about doing it. I think that it could have been an opportunity for, very human discussions to occur. But what's happening underneath the surface of this stuff is very destructive to the Humanities project. It really is. But again, you don't have to go there. You don't have to pay for this stuff. I wonder how much of the state is paying for this stuff. I wonder how much of the federal money is going to this stuff. You have to wonder. This is what the government is supporting indirectly through grants and so on. So we're going to wonder, what is the morality of this? And did they really think this through as a way to bring us closer to unity, or is this a power grab? Signs point to the latter. That's all I have for you right now. I'll talk to you soon. Good day.